Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to do a quick rant about something that I saw on Twitter today and responded to, and then a bunch of you out there responded to me. And I think some of you are missing the point at what I was getting at. So, if you've been paying attention on, particularly on boxing YouTube recently, Andre Ward was asked about Deontay Wilder, the rematch with Tyson Fury. He had some strong language that he used, but and maybe he could have chose his words more appropriately in his response. But I think what he was saying, his response had a lot of merit to it. And I think anybody with critical thinking skills, objectivity, and anybody who saw the first fight between Wilder and Fury correctly understands what Ward was saying. He basically was saying that, that's a tough fight for Wilder. And he might not want to jump right back into that, you know what I'm saying? Because a guy like Fury that has that kind of movement and ability with that size, that poses a huge challenge. Ward wasn't saying that Wilder was scared or ducking or anything like that. He wasn't being disrespectful, but a lot of people on YouTube and social media, boxing Twitter, boxing YouTube, a lot of these fan channels that call themselves media, even though they're not media, but they do get credentialed to some fights, although some of those guys are now blacklisted, finally. But a lot of those guys took, they took the words from Ward very, very harshly, and they've been going after Andre Ward. And you guys have seen some of the videos from some of these guys, particularly the race baiters on YouTube. Again, these are more, fan channels that get credentialed to some fights because of friends that they have in the boxing world. And now some of them have been lit up by Andre Ward, who really did the boxing world a service because he lit up some of these guys, and it was caught finally on video because these guys have been lit up before. I've talked about some of them, and other people in the media have talked about some of them. But finally, a fighter, there have been other fighters and trainers and stuff who have lit these guys up, but finally was caught on video. Anyway, there's been a back and forth between Wilder and kind of his fans and supporters and Andre Ward because of what Andre Ward said in one interview that I think has largely been taken out of context. So this morning on Twitter, I'm just waking up, having my coffee, checking all my tweets, my emails. That's just my normal routine. And I come across this tweet from Deontay Wilder. So I'm going to read it to you guys word for word because I don't want to be, I don't want anything taken out of context here. So, and as far as I can see, this is not a response tweet. This is just a tweet at Andre Ward from Deontay Wilder, completely unprovoked, at least on Twitter. Wilder says, "Whelp, W-E-L-P, whelp, Andre Ward, I guess this is what not wanting smoke looks like. Your guy personally asked for a tune-up before re-entering the ring with the king style-wise. Mentally and physically, I want all the smoke. Never judge my heart, my nig. You'll be surprised what it is capable of doing." And so with that tweet, there's a picture of Wilder standing over Tyson Fury when he was dropped in that 12th round. I saw this and I responded to it. And I retweeted it with a quote, and I'm going to say my quote word for word. I quoted, I want to make sure, quoted the words, "my nig, question mark, really, come on, man, is this the rhetoric, is this the rhetoric image you want to promote to kids?" And then I hashtagged the words "professional athlete in boxing." Now, this got a lot of positive response, this tweet. Didn't get that much response compared to some of my other tweets because I think a lot of people are scared to jump on this subject for obvious reasons with the double standards and everything we have in our society right now. But the people that did respond, it was mostly positive, but there were some of you out there who really responded in a negative way and went back and forth. I had to block some of you morons who keep bringing up the same old tired rhetoric about me, and you're just misjudging me, and you're based off one video or a handful of videos or articles or whatever. I'm not going to go back and forth with you guys. I learned long ago that that's just not worth it. You're never going to like me anyway. But some of you out there are really objectively criticizing my tweet, and I understand that. So I want to, go on Twitter and find it, guys. But I want to further elaborate on what all this was about and explain to some of you who just might not be getting what I'm talking about. Regarding the use of those two words, "my nig," and again, I'm not saying that, I'm quoting Wilder saying that, okay, before any of you lose your shit. and criticizing that. Criticizing him using those two words. It's not me being out of touch. It's not me not understanding hip hop vernacular and all this shit. It's not me being a fuddy-duddy and uptight. Those of you who actually follow me and you know about my story, you know I grew up in the inner city in 90% black neighborhoods during the time when hip hop was exploding. I was around all that. If you met me 20 years ago, I walked and talked and looked very differently than I do now. I've used all that rhetoric. All my friends did. I was immersed in all that. I understand it, okay? And again, I grew up around all that when it was actually an organic, artistic, underground kind of thing. Now it's this super processed American cheese thing, you know? So anyway, it's not that I'm offended by Deontay Wilder's rhetoric. It's that it paints a picture, you know. It's a microcosm of a bigger picture to why Wilder is not universally beloved the way he wants to be, okay? Let me backtrack real quick and just talk about Andre Ward for a second, okay? You guys, again, if you follow me, a lot of my haters hate me, and a lot of you guys who actually do respect my work and follow me, you know that I've been critical of Andre Ward in the past when he was fighting. Was critical with some of the things that he did on the business side and behind the scenes that I know about that I can't really say publicly, but a lot of us in the media who were around that situation that was going on in California, all the litigation and everything with him and Goosen, we know some things that aren't public information that I can't really repeat, but there's some unethical things that happened that, again, it's not like it personally affects my life. I just think it was hypocritical when you're going around calling yourself son of God and some of these things were happening. So I was critical. I was also critical of the inactivity. That was mostly what I was critical of. And the fighting style. There were things about the fighting style that were tough to watch, that were agonizing at times to watch. I still feel that Ward lost the first fight to Sergey Kovalev. Regardless of some of the controversy, though, in the rematch with some of the low blows and all that stuff, he clearly won the rematch. So you can't take that away from him. All of this criticism and everything about Ward led to him blocking me on Twitter. He might not know my name off the top of his head, but he sure as hell knows my face if he sees me in a crowd. Yeah, he blocked me. So, I mean, obviously there was some tension and some issue there. However, having said all of that, I absolutely respect the greatness, and I understand and recognize the greatness. He's one of the best super middleweights ever. Gold medalist, the legitimate champion at super middleweight, clearly beat Carl Froch to win the Super 6 tournament. And yeah, he had the road paved for him. He had some privilege in that tournament. He was the only guy in that tournament that didn't travel. I understand all that, guys, but he clearly won. He was the legitimate super middleweight champion. And again, he beat Kovalev in that rematch. I still think he lost the first fight, but he won the rematch. He was the legitimate light heavyweight champion for a very short amount of time and retired. This is a man, an Andre Ward, who's done it. He did it his way. There's some smugness about him, and therefore he was never a huge superstar like he could have been if he had a different type of personality. He could have been Sugar Ray Leonard, man. He had that kind of talent, and he had that kind of potential if he had a different personality. But, and that's, you know, yeah, I could go on and on and on with that. But this is a guy who's been there, done that. And if you're Deontay Wilder criticizing this dude, like, I understand you're responding to a comment he made, but there are ways to go about it, in my opinion, as a professional where you still look like a professional. But to go after this dude and call him my nig, this is a guy who's retired from the sport, who's done it, who is the legitimate champion in 2 weight classes, who won not a bronze but a gold medal. This is a highly accomplished fighter who is now a very respected commentator. And I think he's doing an outstanding job as a commentator. And you look at the Kovalev-Alvarez rematch, several times the ESPN commentary crew, particularly Max Kellerman, pushed Andre Ward into an awkward space during that broadcast, and I thought he handled it with class and dignity and professionalism. He was the best part of that commentary crew that night, him and Timothy Bradley. And in post-fight, I talked about some of the YouTube guys getting up in Andre Ward's grill, and he handled that situation with class and dignity and professionalism. And thank God he responded the way he did and called out some of these guys and put them on blast, and it was caught on video, because now that little sphere, or that little part of the boxing social media sphere has been exposed. And now the promoters and everybody, they're aware of these people and their names, and they're getting blacklisted. So thank you, Andre Ward. So he's handled this situation, several situations, very, very professionally, and he has shown a blueprint and a good way to do it. And I actually think Andre Ward is going to get more universal respect and love as a commentator and analyst than he ever did as a fighter, because of the way he's conducting himself in some of these tough situations. And he's getting better and better with every fight. If you're Deontay Wilder, you're a guy who's trying to be like Andre Ward. You want to be the champion. You want to have the undisputed championship of the heavyweight division, the way Ward did at super middleweight and light heavyweight. You want to be somebody who's still in the public eye after you retire and has respect. Even guys who are critical of Andre Ward, as I was, oftentimes during his career, respect the guy and recognize his greatness, and more than any of it, his accomplishment. If you're Deontay Wilder, you're fighting right now to try to get to Andre Ward-like territory. Why are you going after him in this way on Twitter? And furthermore, why are you using some of this rhetoric in attacking a dude who honestly is everything you're trying to be like in terms of accomplishment, right? It doesn't make sense. I bring all this up, and I retweeted it and quoted it because, again, it is a microcosm of a bigger issue with Deontay Wilder. He doesn't seem to understand that the reason the guy doesn't have universal love and doesn't have fans and doesn't walk down the street and have a bunch of kids pulling on his pants, tugging on his pants, hey, Mr. Wilder, can I have an autograph? Why he doesn't have all that, like Muhammad Ali did, like Sugar Ray Leonard did, like so many other fighters, Mike Tyson. Some of these guys like Mike Tyson, like Ali, at one point they were seen as public enemy number one for all sorts of different reasons, right? Some of it was political, some of it was racial, some of it was justified, some of it was really, really not justified, okay? But for whatever reason, they were seen as public enemy number one, but eventually they broke through that shit and they became universally loved. Mike Tyson is like America's sweetheart right now. At one point, he was maybe the most hated man, at least in sports, in America. And now he's America's sweetheart. You know what I'm saying? Soccer moms go to this dude's plays. Think about that, right? Deontay Wilder's never going to get to that level. And he says, and he said this repeatedly, several times in different interviews, it's because I'm black. It's because of my race. It's because, the same kind of thing Floyd Mayweather used to say a lot. It has nothing to do with that. This particular tweet, in the way he went at a respected figure like Andre Ward in the sport, who's retired, who's been there, done that, accomplished all the things Deontay Wilder aspires to accomplish. A guy he should be looking up to and asking questions. Dude, how'd you handle this? How'd you handle that? What do you think about this? He should be picking Andre Ward's brain, not attacking the dude. If he doesn't like what he said in that interview about him, he should be calling him up. He should, have his people call his people and set something up and say, man, what made you say that? What did you really mean, man? Let's talk about this. Let's chop it up. Because I respect you, dude. You've been there. You've done that. You're an elder. You're an OG. You've done this before. How can I get to where you're at, man? What did you really mean by that shit? Oh, really, really? Okay, I have issues with this, this, and this. Let's talk about that. And get to a middle ground instead of doing this dumb shit on Twitter. Because yes, there are some of you out there that like the my nig rhetoric and you think that's cool and you're going to roll with that. And a lot of you guys, look, I get it, man. You're young. You know what I'm saying? There was a time where I would have saw that tweet and be like, yeah, clap back, Deontay. Yeah. But outside of that bubble, there's this place called Earth. And if you're trying to get that mass appeal and you're trying to appeal to people of all walks of life and all persuasions, and I'm not talking race, I'm talking socially, people of different points of view socially on things, you should conduct yourself more like Andre Ward. Now, again, there's a lot of things we can criticize about him, but I'm talking about the way he's conducting himself right now. He's truly being a professional here. And he actually, in some of these follow-up interviews, has explained what he meant, but with that original quote. And he's really broken it down, and it's very, very clear what he meant. For Wilder, dude, you can't sit here and bitch that you don't have all these fans and you're not universally beloved and everything else by polling shit like this. You can't bitch about not having all these fans and then have hotel lobby fights and brawls like you did with Dominic Breazeale and his family, which included children and women that you and your crew were involved in. There's just been several things like this centered around Deontay Wilder. It's part of a pattern. And that's why I retweeted and quoted this tweet and specifically quoted those two words. It's a microcosm of a bigger issue with Deontay Wilder. He doesn't get it. And until it clicks, until he starts to get it, he's never going to have that universal fandom that he so desperately wants. And he can keep pointing to boogeymans and trying to make himself out like Muhammad Ali, where a lot of Muhammad Ali's criticism was because of race. It was because of political stances that a lot of people in the country were against. There were a lot of things like that going on, bubbling underneath the surface with the criticism of Muhammad Ali. Some of the criticism of Ali is justified. The way he handled Joe Frazier, who went out of his way to help him. There's a lot of stuff I could bring up, right? But a lot of it really, really was based in ignorance and just hatred. Understand it. I understand that. Dude, we're 50 years past that. Deontay Wilder, if he just look in the mirror and look at some of these other things and just tweak a little bit of behavior and rhetoric and just watch what he says a little bit more, I think he would appeal to more people. There are other athletes who are, at one point, were far more polarizing than Wilder, who have become beloved. And I mentioned some of them before. So it's not as if, the check is written for the rest of his life for Deontay Wilder. But, dude, these are little examples I'm bringing up of why you're not universally beloved. Now, among boxing fans, yeah, you've fought legitimately two top heavyweights. If you want to throw Berman Stavern in there, okay, in the first fight, fine. 3 top heavyweights, right? And you beat them, you won. Well, you had a draw with Fury, and the knockdowns bailed you out. But there's been a lot of inactivity, and there's been a very, very lackluster resume. Now, the rematch with Fury being delayed, that's not on Wilder. It's Team Fury, and it's not even Team Fury wanting to do it. Now they're basically ESPN's bitch because they signed a massive deal with the network, and they're going to have to kind of go with what ESPN wants. Much the way AJ with DAZN, Canelo with DAZN. Do you think AJ and Eddie Hearn wanted to come to America and fight Jarrell Big Baby Miller right now? It's not that they're scared of Miller, but no, they wanted to fight in April, probably against a Dillian White or somebody like that, and make some more money over there. They're being brought here by DAZN because DAZN is bleeding money and needs subscribers. Do you think Canelo and Golden Boy wanted to go straight to Daniel Jacobs right now? No. DAZN is like, dude, we need subscribers. You gotta make this fight. We need people subscribing. That's why the Golovkin, eventually when he signs with DAZN, and that's official, Golovkin and Canelo, they're going to fight for a third time this fall in September because DAZN needs subscribers. So when you do one of these huge deals with a network, to some degree, you have to go with what the network wants. So Wilder's a free agent with networks. Wilder could fight Fury right now, and I'm sure him and his team wanted to. But Fury, with ESPN, it's going to take a while to make that fight happen. Yeah, that's more on Team Fury. Do I think Fury's ducking Wilder? No, I don't think that. But do I think that it's more on Fury right now for the rematch being delayed? Obviously, yes. However, today I was just addressing that tweet. And I know I'm rambling here, guys, but I just want to make it clear of what I'm getting to, all right? And I know I bounced all over the place, but I eventually got to it. Hopefully you guys understand, that Wilder's issues, it's not because he's black. It's not because of how he dresses or how he talks. It's some of the ways he chooses to engage people or not engage people. You know, that stuff's important, man. Today in the 21st century, everything's under a microscope. If you are a public figure, and not that Wilder is this massively famous person, but he is a public figure and he is famous to a certain degree. Who do you want to appeal to? And I don't mean who in terms of demographics and race and all that. I'm talking about, do you want to appeal to a small community or do you want to appeal to a big community? It's like I've criticized Canelo Alvarez before. He understands English, he can speak it, he chooses not to speak it in public, he doesn't do regular media here in the United States. If he chose to speak English, like someone like Manny Pacquiao did, and eventually got good at it and mastered it, or Gennady Golovkin, if you will, it would expand his brand even more. He'd be even bigger and more popular than he already is. So again, who do you want to appeal to? What do you want to be seen as? What bubble do you want to fit into? Me personally, Michael Montero, I don't want to fit in a bubble. I want to touch everything. You know what I'm saying? That's why I try to be neutral and cool with everybody. Some people make that shit impossible. But I make mistakes. There are things I say. There are ways I say things. There are ways I engage people that I look back and I'm like, you know, I should have did that differently. I should have handled it differently. And that's why, anyway, I just brought up this thing with Deontay Wilder today. So let me know what you guys think, man. You know, again, I'm not trying to be out of touch. I'm not trying to be, uptight. It's just, look, man, and if this was one thing with Wilder, whatever. But it isn't. There's been a series of things like this, of just stupid, idiotic tweets, dumb quotes in interviews that are so out of the realm of reality. It just shows the guy's kind of delusional. It's either he's completely delusional or he doesn't give a shit about mainstream appeal and he's trying to appeal to a small group of people who have a certain worldview. He's trying to appeal basically to those YouTube fan channels that I talked about in this video, to their worldview. That's who he wants to appeal to. That's his lane. He wants to stay in it, and he wants to tell everybody else, you're my enemy. If that's what he wants, cool. Then don't sit there and bitch and complain in interviews that demands hold you down because you're a black guy. That's nothing to do with that. And there's countless examples that we could point to that show and prove that's not what the issue is here. All right, guys. Anyway, that's my rant for this morning. I'm off to the gym. See you at the fights.